Welcome to Momentum Monday. In today's episode, we're hitting the big questions about semiconductors. What the heck is happening in China? Is this crypto rally for real? Has solar bottomed? And can Tesla stock make a comeback? We'll then take a big picture look at markets, respond to the top questions from our community. And before we conclude, we'll give you our top stock picks and trade ideas heading into next week. My name is Tommy. I'm joined by Ivan, our resident market wizard, and Howard, the King Goomba of StockTwits himself. So
Grand
Ivan,
Poobah.
let's get started. Grand Poobah, whatever.
Goomba.
So Ivan,
Goomba's better.
let's get started with the $1 trillion question. Are you buying semis here?
I mean, it just depends on the semis. Obviously, when it comes to Nvidia, which is the big price leader last year and this year, they're up 10,000%, right, in the past 5 years. If we just pull up a monthly chart. So if you're a long-term investor, I wouldn't chase them here. If you're a swing trader, I wouldn't chase them here. I think probably the only way to engage with them right now, it's basically intraday. Just because they're so extended above their 50, above their 20, above their 50-day. This doesn't mean that they can go higher. I mean, right now it's only $1.8 billion company. Definitely very extended valuation. But it's the ultimate AI play, and this is what's hot right now. And those types of themes can continue a lot longer than most people expect.
Yeah, quickly, everything Ivan said, we've been talking about him here for months. Before the young gun showed up, Tommy taking over things. So I think the question is, do you look at stuff that might just be breaking out? Ivan, if you looked at Marvell, MRVL quickly, you would say, okay, well, maybe there's stuff that hasn't broken out, but then you would have to look at it and go, and I own Marvell, but you would have to look at it and go, why hasn't it broken out, right? Like, why isn't it doing what SMCI and Nvidia are doing? So be careful. I mean, it always comes down to money management, but yeah, when things are extended that much from the 200-day moving average, if you're long, you hope it just goes on forever with no pullbacks. But prices tend to shock people. Uranium was really extended from the 200-day and came right back, 15%. So generally you get chances, but keep going on to the next question.
Yeah. I
mean, well, before we jump on, there's a viral headline that made huge waves on Friday saying that Nvidia market cap exceeds the entire market cap of the entire Chinese stock market. What do you make of those headlines? Is that just noise?
Made me hungry for Chinese food. So that's the problem with my age.
China makes sense. Why not? look
Ivan and I are going for dumplings today because of that headline.
Look at Nvidia's earnings. Like from 77 cents in 2017, they're expected to make almost $20 per share in 2025.
Yeah,
that's like,
if someone told you that's what, so here's the beautiful thing about earnings. If someone had told you in 2017 those would be the earnings, you would have taken the stock up to about these levels. In China, the only thing that's in charge of earnings is President Xi. Meaning, if you even make those earnings, he may take the company away. So, hence, that's the reason why Nvidia trades more than China.
Period. All right. So, speaking of China, like we've had incredible, ridiculous action around these Chinese low float stocks, making like 1,000% gains all day last week. What the heck is happening in China that's responsible for these moves in stocks like Hala?
I mean, I don't think it's about China. It's just this is a typical price action that we see in like microcaps with super low floats, like anything that has a float. Like here you can see they have shares outstanding of only 5 million shares, but actually their float, what's available to trade is only 1 million shares. So when you have those super micro floaters, it's really easy to manipulate and short squeeze people. So any stock that gaps up 100%, there are plenty of intraday traders that immediately short it, and then they get squeezed during the day. So it's just a simple short squeeze. I don't think there is a story there. It's just we see those happening every single week in different areas of the market.
Yeah, for those youngins that prefer to hang out on Reddit, I mean, it's the too hot, too loose, just right thing, right? If you live in the future, you're kind of on Reddit, where 99% of the chatter is noise, but the 1% signal is pretty cool if you're in the right spot. Then there's Twitter, which is real time. Then there's StockTwits, where everybody comes just behind real time. So there's this progression of like, I'm not going to say scams, but like promotion. And for those people that want to waste their day doing promotion, if you get it right, and these are professionally conducted hits. It's no different than something on TikTok that trends. You're just changing a TikTok video with a stock. So if everybody crowds around a symbol on Reddit or Twitter or Discord, you can see that happen on StockTwits. What, an hour later, 2 hours later, occasionally. Be wary of it. But for those that I call it the degenerate economy, this is proof that the degenerate economy lives. This is part of the degenerate economy I avoid. Okay, it creates bad habits. It's when you're wrong, it can be awful. But that's how markets work. There's occasionally this weird behavior, and it's definitely cooked up.
All right. Well, speaking of the degen economy, we had a huge crypto rally, at the end of last week. All these crypto miners were at the top of trending pretty much all day Friday. You had ClearSpark, Mara, Riot. Is this crypto rally real? Is this here to stay?
I mean, who's to say if it's real? Obviously, they're all connected to Bitcoin. Bitcoin broke out after consolidation. And in a way, Bitcoin is like a low floater. Like there are only 21 million coins available right now, 19 million, and some of them are lost. Most of them are owned by people that will never sell or not sell at these prices. So it's there is a very small number of coins that are really available to trade. So anytime Bitcoin goes up, those types of stock like Mara and Coin, they just go up exponentially, and also the other one, MSTR. So it's just a really strong trend. Yeah,
Ivan makes a good point. It is about low float, right? Like Bitcoin, if you go back and look at the holders, and we've done that before, Bitcoin always needs something new to, never in the history has there been a brand this young and a brand, but I mean, Bitcoin's a brand, right? And no different than Coca-Cola or Nike, except unlike other brands, they don't have employees, they don't have healthcare, they don't have offices. It's a supply constrained commodity, let's call it, not a currency. And if you believe the religion of 21 million, in the simple use case that it could just be gold, right? Or owning a seat at the CME, or owning a sports team, a piece of the blockchain, whatever that is, it's inanimate and digital. It's defying it just messes with people's heads because they don't want to believe, like any religion. And a post Bitcoin ETF, it was like, okay, that'll be the top, right? There's 700 ETFs coming. There's going to be all kinds of derivatives. So, immediately there was sell the news. And I think anytime Bitcoin now shows signs of life in the face of, that last thesis was, now that there's ETFs, Bitcoin can be derivatized and infinitely created in leverage. I think, if Bitcoin can break above those highs, and the ETFs, there's another, piece of information that was kind of considered rule that's broken. So it's really one of the most incredible commodities / tickers / digital assets / blockchain, and no one can get their head around it. So it's exciting. In those cases, it's exciting.
One of the themes that connects crypto and AI is this idea that, okay, what's going to provide the energy for all of these things that is going to provide this innovation to the economy, and solar is a big bet that people are making. And so when we look at the price action happening in stocks like EMPH, what does that tell you about the future of the solar industry and energy in general?
I mean, EMPH and most solar stocks have been in a huge downtrend for the past year and a half or so. And but last week, ENPH reported earnings, right? They missed estimates, they guided lower, and yet they gapped up and traded higher. And typically when you see stocks go up on bad news, that's one of the bottoming signs. So there is a chance that solar might be bottoming already, obviously still below declining 200 days, so probably not the best place to fish for most people, but I'm keeping an eye on them.
Yeah, I mean, if you look, it's what makes sometimes I don't use I flip around in what signals I use. It's in a downtrend, so it's been off my screens, right? I don't need to be at the top or the bottom, but you can see it's still in a long-term uptrend, right? You can draw your lines any way you want, right? It just depends on where you draw the angles. So if we go back to the daily, Ivan, if you've been long Enphase or an employee, this has just been a couple bad years. Why has it been a couple bad years? Well, they peaked earnings in 2022. And the question is, did earnings peak in 2022? And Ivan and I have talked about this before. Is solar related to interest rates, right? Because people do it in their home. It's an expensive thing down the chain to people. So if rates are going to start dropping, will solar reassume an uptrend? So I think it's if you look at the earnings, you can see that when earnings peaked, the stock peaked, and that's just generally how the market works in general. So if you believe that these companies can go back to growth, this stock will rocket because if it's going to go into a 3-4 year growth cycle and $4 or $2 is its low point in earnings, yeah. But
so if I force you to pick, you have your choice between uranium stocks like CCJ or solar stocks like ENPH. Which way are you putting your money behind?
Well, the only thing that makes me different than Kramer, because we both love stocks, is that sometimes I just don't know or don't care, right? There's only so many. I don't play that game. Because I mostly index and I'm looking for really my favorite ideas are founder-owned technology companies. I can't be an expert in everything. But if I was going to choose, I'd probably go with uranium stocks just because this nuclear trend feels still pretty early. And speaking of nuclear, have you seen Dark on Netflix?
So good. So
oh my God, I finally started watching it, and that's a very nuclear weird story. Highly recommend.
Shout out Duzio on the stream. Duzio is a
Duzio was texting me last night.
Yeah, I love that.
I mean, I just saw him in Miami. I'm the only guy who knows him, and he really was doing Saturday night texts to me about the stock market. So
yeah, okay. So
Duzio.
On the Duzio thread, one of Duzio's big picks, and kind of how he made a lot of, in my mind, his name for himself on the streams is being super bullish on Tesla. Circa 2013. So when we take a look at Tesla right now, it's obviously been an absolute dog of a stock. Does this make a comeback here?
Or woman or child?
I think he's an algorithm.
He's not an algorithm. He's an enigma wrapped inside a large waffle. No, I've had a few drinks with the dudes, and he's been yelling Tesla at me for, I don't know, 5 years, and I'm finally having my day in the sun while he yells about everything, and I remind him about Tesla going nowhere the last 4 years. But yeah, so just as we do this show, Tommy, I mean, Ivan's the swinger. I kind of will give you some opinions, but they're going to be mostly macro when I don't own the stock, because you can't know everything. I will say, the sponsor of this show, MarketSmith, I love the earnings stuff on the side. If you really want to do deep dive on fundamentals, I use FinChat.io, which allows you to break out KPIs. So for people that really want to dig into companies that are bigger, have multiple product lines, FinChat's incredible around. And then I also use KoiFin. Ivan, what do you use mainly? MarketSmith?
Yeah, MarketSmith mostly, yeah.
Because Ivan's very much price, not fundamental. Price and earnings. So he's big data fundamentals, which is he looks at.
So what do you see when you look at the Tesla chart right now?
I mean, it's in a downtrend, right? They missed estimates, gap down. If you just look, they keep making lower highs, lower lows. And now they have Elon Musk tweeting that they need to give him more shares so he can own at least 25% of the company. So if the board decide to really give it to him, I mean, they're going to dilute Tesla shareholders. If they don't, he can leave and he's not as motivated. So obviously the stock is not going to, the company is not going to be as innovative as before, most likely. So definitely plenty of concerns at these valuations, and this is why it's been in a downtrend and it's been underperforming significantly. You can see relative strength. line is
So
25K.
forgetting all the personal stuff, because it's easy to spend all day on that. If we pull up a chart of Toyota Motor, it tells you what's really happening fundamentally. Is kids, for whatever reason, it's not Elon's fault. Culturally, everybody went or is going hybrid. If you get in an Uber today and ask the Uber driver, listen, if they have a Tesla, they like it, but it's expensive, right? For the Tesla, for the Uber owner. If you get in a Honda or Toyota hybrid, it's much cheaper for the owner to own to lease that car. So and I think it, you know, if I ask my kids, it's about long distance driving. They want a long distance drive. Some kids are scared of flying. You know, it's a weird generation, right? Like my son is scared of flying. He checks turbulence apps. So in a world where kids don't mind driving 6 to 10 hours as part of the party of it all, right? Because it's expensive to go out, so they drink on their and they take shifts drinking. I don't know what these kids are doing, but you can look at this chart of Toyota, and that is also an explanation of where Tesla is at, right? The hybrid is hot, okay? And then you combine the mess of valuation that is Tesla, the mess that is how many hours in a day can a guy, Steve Jobs ran 2 companies and it was very hard. Elon's running 7, 8, 9. Who else? What other else he's cooking up? Plus fighting everybody. And he's not just competing against regular Joes. He's competing against titans in tech, who, you know, massively fit, very focused, who have all stared down, you know, stock market death, you know, from Facebook to Netflix. This is no joke. And he's got the cult. Otherwise, the stock would be in the teens. You know, so when you start treating your own users in a weird way, it's a very dangerous cocktail. Now, in the end, earnings is going to decide this and growth. And I think he's not going to own Germany. He's definitely not going to own China. And if he wants to own Russia, who cares? So he's playing a little bit of a dangerous game. But he generally comes on top, so I wouldn't short the stock.
You mentioned valuations, and now just taking like a little bit of a bigger picture look, you know, XPX just closed above 5K on Friday. Everybody made a big deal about that. You know, we're trading at like, you know, 20x PE, something like that on SPY. People are also making a lot to do about that stat. You know, what do you guys look at when you take a big picture look at just where we're at in the markets right now?
I mean, big picture look, obviously, if you're really long-term investor, maybe just buying at these levels are not going to give you the best returns over the next 10 years. But if you anything from like position from like swing trader to intraday, that doesn't matter, right? You don't really look at valuation, you just look at price action.
Yeah. And for my daughter who's allocating every month, I'm like, you know, don't overthink it. You know, hope it goes down. You're 26 years old, so you hope it goes down 50% next month, and you would double. You know, so if you're working, you don't care. If this is all you do for a living, again, as an index, we're extended from moving averages, longer term moving averages, and generally things trend towards moving averages. So it doesn't mean it can't go 10% higher quickly or 20% higher quickly before it trends back to. So again, this is always comes down to your personal. On the streams, everybody asks me, you can't be right all the time. So this goes down to your personal risk preferences. If you're long right here, wonderful, you did the right thing and you got into the market. It depends how your risk management is and you know, taking some profits. I sold a few things on last week in tech. I don't know if things are going to come down before they go up 30%. That's why they call it it's risky. But
so you're saying you're selling last week. I mean, also last week we had, you know, huge earnings, companies like ARM blowing out, you know, on their
you
report.
had breakaway gaps. So these are very bullish things. I give you one. They started happening 3-4 months ago. Ivan and I were talking about them. Cloudflare, which I own, we've been talking about since 70s and 80s. We had some June calls, but they started a few months ago. Elastic was one of them, which is a Web 2 leader. It provides the search for StockTwits. You see that huge gap, right? Off a huge base, right? What people get, if you tend to look back, of all things being equal, after a huge gap, after a long base, the next move tends to happen in the direction of the gap, right? Especially in a good market. So So Ivan, go back to your new gaps that Tommy was showing. There was one in Snowflake. There's been one in Cloudflare. They're happening in software left and right.
Everywhere.
It happened in Uber. Not so much it happened in MMYT, which is an Indian travel stock that I own. When we have big bases, and then you have these gaps and runaways. This is generally bullish behavior. I mean, it's very hard for people to square all this because of price to earnings and media. Ivan and I try and do this show every week. How long, Ivan? We've been doing it 5 years or so every week.
Multiple years.
It's our homework. This is Tommy. You're watching us do our homework. You're helping us do our homework.
Getting smarter.
I just think it's like yoga, right? We do this because it's like yoga. Do you do the same fucking poses in yoga every week, right? You go and why am I still sweating? Like what? Like why some weeks do I feel great? Some weeks you just do it, right? Disney was hated. Elon piled on at the bottom, right? Disney was like an embarrassment, right? Now you have gaps going up 2 months later, and people on the wrong side of this, right? Because it got bearish. Like we can look back in 3 months of Tesla and go, man, we were talking about it. And the reason I'm not shorting it is because I don't like shorting stocks in general. But what happens if you're wrong? Tesla goes sideways for a few months with the rest of the market, and then now gaps back up 30, 40 points. So I think there's a lot of misunderstood macro stuff being spouted because macro is the hardest. It's the easiest thing to talk about. It's the hardest thing to understand because it's so many things integrated into what creates, a market and a price. The easiest thing to do is what a small investor should do, like Ivan and I, is to just look at the price of assets and look at the direction of them, right? And then develop some habits around, how to buy and sell. Go ahead.
So let's jump into the community questions now, because I think the first one really starts hitting. Yeah, and so I mean, if you let me share the screen, I think this first one really just kind of hits on what we're talking about right now. And if you guys can just kind of respond to, our guy High Yield 717 asking, valuations are getting pretty rich. Every stock we look at, the chart's spiking, like you guys just demonstrated. We all like to make money, but is the pullback inevitable? What catalyst should we look to get out at? Or is your average Joe should just be buying Nvidia?
But that just depends on your time frame of operation, right? Howard mentioned if you're dollar cost averaging every month, you just keep doing that, and then you wait on 10, 20%, 30% pullback, and then you buy more than you usually buy. If you're a shorter term trader, you wait for price breakdowns. Like as of right now, we're having one of the strongest earnings seasons in a very long time. Anything related to AI, and not only just gapping up and then following through. People are talking about valuations. People are talking about bearish seasonality between now and May. But guess what? People are talking about seasonality because seasonality worked great last year, almost perfectly. And now people are expecting the same map to play out this year. But usually when you find the key, the market changes the lock. So what if the market turns around this year, and instead of having a strong second half, we have a strong first half? So you never know in advance. So what we're seeing, at least what I'm seeing, is more stocks breaking out. Definitely there's been a little bit of a deterioration in market breadth, but if the mid caps and the small caps break out, if the Russell 2000 breaks out above 200, if the mid caps which are setting up for a breakout, they do, I think we'll see an improvement in breadth. So I think I still don't really see a reason to be short, and obviously if price action changes, I'll change my mind, but as of right now, there's really no reason for that.
We've got about 10 minutes left because you're cheap and didn't pay for Zoom. But Tommy, do we have enough time to do these?
Yeah, we'll be fine.
Okay. Yeah, so quickly, exactly what Ivan says. You ask 1,000 people, you're going to get 1,000 answers, especially on StockTwits, right? I started StockTwits because it was a place for me to share ideas and goof around, right? It was Twitter for stocks, okay? If you come here to argue, you're going to get a good argument and you're going to get nowhere, okay? So as we've seen, if you want to get the most out of StockTwits, this is a great question. Ask good questions, but also the whole thing's about filters, right? There's no such thing as information overload, just filter failure, okay? You only need to find 5 people, right, that fit the way you think. Okay, you can find a few others that are outside your thinking for ideas, but generally you are here to share your own ideas. Okay, if you ask bad questions, you will get bad answers. This question is not a bad question. This question is just a question we get a lot. Okay, don't ask people questions unless you know who you're asking, right? So if you know Ivan and I, you know that we don't really have a great answer for this question because we put on an idea and we have an idea of when we're going to get in and when we're going to get out. I index, so I own Nvidia. Am I going to go hedge Nvidia because I know it's in my, at a time in my life I would have done that. So again, it's very personal. Nvidia was already over-owned when it did the first gap, and everybody on CNBC at $400 was all fait accompli that everybody who needed to own Nvidia owned it, much like Bitcoin at 20,000 and 30,000. Stocks that are in uptrends tend to continue surprise in uptrends, right? It's seen it through history. So much better to wait for stocks to stop going up and even start going down. Okay.
So you kind of hit on this a little bit too. If some of the best traders in the world, asked by clipping coupons, the Ray Dalios, the Peter Thiels, the Warren Buffetts, if they are on StockTwits, why should every other investor be on StockTwits?
It's a great question. I don't know if she's being mean. If she's being mean, I'll still answer the question. First of all, I don't follow them. And I've told her this. Like, David Rubenstein, I don't know when the last time he was right. Ray Dalio, I don't trust that guy. And Peter Thiel, okay, he blew up his fucking hedge fund from 9 billion to 1 billion, okay? We have to be very careful which gods we're praying to, right? The last 15 years of the tech cycle, you couldn't be wrong, okay? Peter Thiel passed on Tesla as a seed investment. So be careful about who you're praying to. Okay, because the idea of pseudonymous streams like StockTwits is, I don't care what you look like. I care about what your ideas and how you think and how you manage money. So if she's being serious, my serious answer is, thank God they're not here. I wouldn't follow them, okay? And because they have their own business that they're a brand that they're trying to create. So the last place they would be is on StockTwits. And the whole idea of StockTwits is for everybody else, right? I don't want to listen to people that I see on TV all day pitching their products and telling me, their story, right? I'm on StockTwits as a place to journal my ideas so that I can go back and look at how I was thinking about Nvidia, Palantir, all the things that Shopify, the things that I own right now. These guys couldn't survive on StockTwits. Right. Okay,
I love that point. All right, we're gonna move on. We're gonna have to hit these, so we're gonna get them all good. I like this one just because SoFi is one of the most beloved stocks on our website. We had a lot of people just love SoFi. What is your just take if you could just opine and give the people some
good product, man? Like SoFi is loved because it's a good product. People are confusing a great product and a great vision with a great stock. Okay, and there is a big difference. For me, it's not founder owned. Founder was kicked out a while ago, started another company, right? And at some levels competing. Second of all, it's a very competitive business, right? He tells a good story. He also ran Twitter before, so whatever. So it's very cultish, right? And very cultish stocks that aren't executing around earnings with low margins, I'm very wary of. And so it's not like I'm picking on SoFi. It's also a stock that was promoted by Chamath, right? And there's a lot of Chamath stands on StockTwits. So be careful of who owns the stock. Right? It's a great product, and it's a huge company, right? SoFi is a great neobank / lender. So I have no problems with like the company. I just have a problem with the valuation and the growth, etc. Ivan, anything?
I mean, I don't use the product, so I mean, we don't have that much time, Howard. So I'll just let you answer the question. So maybe
next one.
Jump on.
What makes you different than Kramer, Howard?
No, I wasn't. Listen, Kramer was my inspiration, right? In the 90s, he started Street.com, right? Like that was the place I hung out, much like Manny Diamante is hanging out on StockTwits. The only difference is I try not to be him. I don't like yelling out hundreds of ideas, right? I share what I'm doing. He has everything on like different levels now, Kramer. There's like his portfolio and then the free portfolio, and then it's just a different style. My style is just very different, I hope.
I like that. How do you feel about the recent layoffs that's been all over the news recently? Is that noise, or is this the AI starting to impact the world?
I don't know if it's AI yet. It's AI. It's being AI ready. So here's where you see AI really making a dent. Go look at IBM, right? All-time highs. That means every Fortune 1000 company's freaking out and taking it seriously, good or bad. I think it's good, right? If IBM's going up, that means they're getting hired to solve AI for companies who have no plan. This caught people a lot by surprise, okay? But at the same time, as my guest on Trends with Friend, Michael Preck said, now you're in this lull period. ChatGPT went from 0 to 100 million users, and all of a sudden it hasn't gone from 100 to 300 million users, right? That next move hasn't happened yet. So you're in that digestion phase, and that's why everybody's booting up the consultants and firing their employees, right? So you have a double whammy going on. The consultant stocks are going higher, and people are firing people that aren't AI experts. So even at StockTwits, where it was 30% layoffs, right? Every company feels comfortable right now laying people off because they know that things are expensive and you're going to have to deliver numbers. So short answer, that's what it is happening. It's mentally affecting a lot of people because now everybody's out looking at the same time for a job. And you know what that means? Prices, salaries come down. So it is stressful out there.
Do you think the creation of StockTwits has ruined some people's lives, influencing them per se, or is this how it is?
I mean, it's ruined my life. So isn't that fair if it ruins the founder's life? No, I mean, Ivan, we use it. I don't know, Ivan, you
It's a
give a
social
funny
network,
answer.
right? It gives you the opportunity to learn from people that are much more experienced than you, that are better than you, or if you're good at it, it gives you a chance to shine. So it's just an incredible opportunity for anyone, really, even if you want to learn or if you want to share and grow your following. So
it's like a market itself. If your expectations are you're going to get rich, you're going to be disappointed when you come to StockTwits. If your expectations are to use the product for why it was built, journal, find like-minded people, not millions of people, then you'll be fine. If you come to just sit on a stream and expect your stock to go up, you're going to be disappointed. So again, hit us up, ask us questions, but find some people that actually are consistently sharing ideas. That's what StockTwits is about.
All right. So speaking of sharing ideas, we'll wrap up. Just if you guys can just offer, hey, what are your top stock picks or trade ideas, heading into next week?
I mean, not necessarily for next week, but in general, one of the themes I'm watching right now is if the market continues to be really hot, I think the IPO market will revive. So someone like Goldman Sachs would benefit of that. So I'm watching that consolidation
here. That looks good.
Like a big top and handle, setting up for a potential breakout. I think if the IPO market comes back, which I think it will, Goldman is setting up for a breakout. And that's not really for next week. It's maybe for the next few months, maybe this year. Howard?
I don't have anything fresh. My ideas honestly have worked. So I'm just debating, when I've had this good a run, I'm kind of more debating to take a little money off the table. So I like this banking idea, the IPO and tech and probably some banks look really good here.
Okay, we're out of time. So let's stop here. I'm going to upgrade for next time. Okay.
All right, Tommy, great job.
Thanks, guys. Hey, I appreciate you guys. That's